recording. And actually, I'll probably do it like this. Okay. What's up, guys, and welcome to, this is the first ever episode of, I don't even have a name for this podcast or not, but I have a love and passion for languages, and I thought I need to have more language-related podcasts out there. There's only two that I even know of, so I thought this would be a good idea. For the first episode, I contacted someone that I actually found through YouTube. His name is Dakota. Runs a channel called Language Learning Lounge, and we're just going to kind of talk about languages a little bit. So, just right off into it, man, just out of curiosity, I'm just anxious to see where did your passion for language learning come from? Where did that stem from?
So that's a complicated question, I think, because I actually, as far back as I remember, I've always wanted to sort of study languages a little bit. Uh-huh. In elementary school, even as far back as kindergarten, there was kids in my class who used sign language. Some of them really couldn't communicate, and then eventually there was a deaf kid in one of my classes. And so from elementary school, I wanted to learn sign language, and I would get books out of the library to try and teach myself sign language. But as I was in first grade, that didn't go very well.
Right.
And then, there are summer, like 2-3 week summer courses, sometimes over the summer or whatever, that you can do in elementary school. And I signed up for Spanish between 5th and 6th grade, and I was the only person who signed up for Spanish, so that got canceled on me.
That's lame.
Yeah, it was really disappointing. But then when I got to high school, I started taking French because my school offered 4 languages. They offered French, Spanish, German, and Japanese. So I started taking French because it seemed more useful than German or Japanese did, but it wasn't Spanish. Everyone was doing Spanish. And so I wasn't really into languages like I am now. But I still, I wanted to learn something. So I started doing French, and then we were going to take a trip to France. And the Japanese teacher was going to be a chaperone because she was really good friends with the French teacher. Mm-hmm. And so I met her. I liked her. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take Japanese as well. And I had a hard time in high school. Up until this point, which would be like my sophomore, junior year, I was really into math. I loved math, and I loved sciences like physics and stuff like that.
That's cool. I was a really big math fan too, randomly.
Yeah. People say that you're either like a math person or like a languages person, and I don't think that's true. I think for certain aspects of languages, having a mathematical understanding of things is actually really helpful, especially when you break down grammar in certain ways, if you're into grammar.
Right. Yeah. No, I can see that for sure. Yeah. I was going to take in high school, we'll get back to that story, just as fun fact, I was actually going to take in high school, my freshman year I took pre-algebra, my sophomore year, I took geometry and algebra 2 because I was going to prepare for pre-calculus, but I failed biology, and I had to I had to retake that class, which kicked me out of pre-cal, which ruined my entire hopes and aspirations, of course. But
yeah, I actually, my senior year of high school, I took calculus as an elective.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I loved math. But like I was saying, I had a hard time in high school. I was picked on a lot. And the Japanese room, like the Japanese teacher sort of like, she let me be there whenever I wanted.
That's cool.
So I spent all of my lunches in there. And then eventually, because calculus was an elective, I didn't take it seriously. So eventually I dropped out of that, and I became like a student aide for the Japanese teacher. And so because she sort of like sheltered me and gave me like protection for, like, I would get like full cans of soda thrown at my head.
Good
and
Lord.
Then I would get in trouble for it, for starting it.
Right.
And because I lived in a fairly conservative area, and being queer was not good there.
Right. Yeah.
So
I can understand that. It's people are very afraid of something different.
Yeah.
Not that it's different, but you know what I mean. Like if it doesn't fit their exact guidelines, they freak out.
Exactly. And so like she like gave me this protection, and I always wanted to be a teacher. Originally, I wanted to be a math teacher, but then I didn't have a math teacher who ever did these things for me, like the French teacher and the Japanese teacher. And I became friends with the German teacher, even though I wasn't in his class. I just sort of knew him, and we would talk and hang out.
Gotcha.
And so like the language teachers are the people who are like getting me through life. So I was like, this is fun. I should do this instead. And so that's really what got me into languages.
Gotcha. Okay. And is Japanese your strongest?
My strongest language is, besides English, obviously, is French. I've got a bachelor's degree in French.
Whoa. Okay. So are you? What do you know? What level you are on French? Like A1 or A1 through C2?
I estimate that I'm B2 because I don't use French a lot anymore.
Right.
But there's also a chance that I'm C1. I'm somewhere in there. I've never actually been tested. It's just a guess.
I've always thought the idea, like as far as the whole scale goes to me, I've always thought once you hit a B2, you're pretty much good.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess once you get the C's is where you're starting to learn exact grammar points. But to me, if you're B2, you're conversational.
Yep.
You're pretty, unless you're having some sort of supremely like political conversation that just has like these little tiny things that you don't normally say. I would say once you hit B2, you're probably good regardless.
Exactly, yeah, because I can say literally everything I need to say. Sometimes it just doesn't sound very eloquent, but I can get it all out. So
yeah, that the word order is kind of weird sometimes, because and I know that Romance languages are close, obviously, to English, but I have that trouble in Spanish a lot. Where I can't remember what the exact example was, but I did the sentence. I was doing my Duolingo stuff, and I was doing the sentence, and then like, for no reason at all that I can figure out, just the word "K" was in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but why is that even freaking there? It doesn't. The 150 different meanings of that freaking word doesn't apply to any of this. So,
yeah.
Gotcha. So go ahead.
I was like, sometimes you just need a K. It's also sometimes you just need to throw a K in there.
Yeah, they love to just throw that in there. Okay, so yeah, French is your strongest, and I know you do Japanese, and then I know you're currently doing Mandarin.
Yeah, my fiance is Chinese, so I'm currently trying to get some Mandarin in. I've also, in the past, I did a series where I saw a bunch of stuff online for a while saying like, oh, you can become like fluent in 20 hours. And I was like, I don't buy this. I buy that you can maybe get to a level where you can have basic conversations and speak and get around in a country.
Right.
And so I decided that I'd experiment with that, and I did Esperanto.
Yeah, that's actually where I found your channel.
Yeah.
The Esperanto, I think it was a 15-hour. You hit a 15-hour mark, maybe?
Yeah, I did one every 5 hours. But I did that like in the middle of, I decided to do that video series in the middle of like moving and stuff.
Right.
So it didn't go very well. But I've recently started getting back into Esperanto. So my Esperanto's getting better again. Still not great, but
it's hard, man. And especially for English speakers, the hardest part of Esperanto for me is the accusative state. I struggle so much with that. The N on the end. And like Duolingo will start trying to trick you because they'll say Caton captus muso or muson captus cato, which in my mind as an English speaker, I'm like, okay, cat captures mouse, but the way that the N is, that is what receives the verb. So even though that word's first, it's actually what's receiving the action. So it's I hate that accusative thing, man. That's my least favorite part of that language. But
I found that really easy personally because in Japanese, every time something's an object of the sentence, it takes a certain marker as well.
Oh, okay,
so
like a certain particle.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's basically just like using the O particle in Japanese for the most part.
Ah, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Actually, because I studied Japanese, probably close to 10 years ago now, and I remember almost nothing because in a town of 5,000 people where, you like I think I even maybe made mention to this. I was like, because you live in Chicago, right?
Yeah, I live in Chicago now.
So you probably have more people that live in your apartment complex than I do in my entire city. Or, whatever, on your block or whatever. It's just, man, and at that point, I mean, yes, it was 2009 when I started studying it, but the internet the internet obviously was awesome, but, like, I don't think italki existed or anything of that nature. and it was just so hard to find anybody. And I could speak okay, and I still remember some little aspects of it, like what is it like? I think "Noro ga suite imasu," which is like "I am thirsty" or something, like, or "I am hungry." It's one of the two.
Yeah, I think you combine "I am thirsty" and "I am hungry."
"Onaka ga suite imasu" and then "Noro ga kuite imasu," or something of that. Like that. Yeah. So I remember a couple things, but yeah, it's tough, man. So, so that's good. Did you ever get anywhere with Spanish outside of that? Like, have you ever went back to Spanish to study?
So I did a semester of it. One semester in university. I took Mandarin, Arabic, and Spanish all at the same time. I took 101 for all of them.
Nice.
That's basically all of the formal education I've had in Spanish. But because I've worked in back of house of restaurants and grocery stores, like doing prep foods at grocery stores, there's a lot of Spanish speakers in those areas.
Right.
And I speak French. So there was a point in my life where I could understand Spanish at a conversational level. I couldn't speak it, but I could understand it at a conversational
So you were like essentially passively.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
So I haven't worked in that situation in probably 4 years now. So my Spanish is a lot worse. That's one of the things I'm going to start working on after I get a good base in Mandarin. I'm going to go back to Spanish a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Well, my attraction to Spanish has always been, and this is probably not the correct reason to learn anything, but my attraction to Spanish has always been, living in America, Spanish is so useful, and you can basically demand a higher salary just because you speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it would be $100,000 or anything, but you can definitely make extra money just because you speak it. That's always been one of the big selling points to me, was that.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. A lot of people are like, oh, become, bilingual. It gets you more money. That's a huge reason for a lot of people. But again, it depends on what field you work in. Like if you work like a minimum wage job, it's probably not going to help you much.
Right.
But an interesting fact I find about languages and being able to speak multiple languages and how it affects your pay, it all depends on how common a bilingual in those two languages are. So like a Spanish-English bilingual is going to be like the lowest paid bilingual.
Right. I can absolutely agree with that. Because it's so commonplace.
It's really fascinating to look into all of that. I've actually, when I first started doing YouTube, one of the videos I did was like, why should you become bilingual? And looking into reasons for that, I actually looked into quite a few studies, and there's some decent in-depth studies about what languages get you paid the most, and it depends on your field, and it depends, like, sometimes, like, if you speak something obscure like Hungarian, like, there's not going to be a lot of jobs that need you. Right. But the one job that does need you is going to pay a lot.
Yep. It's funny because it goes into, I don't know, do you follow Moses McCormick, Laoshu 55,000?
No.
On YouTube? Okay. It goes into a conversation that I had with him one time. Moses, he does YouTube. He's got, I think he's like 53 or 54,000 subscribers now. But his big thing is he wears a camera on his head, and he literally, and it's a hidden camera, and he goes around and he speaks conversationally. He doesn't throw around the fluent word. He's conversational in about 50 languages or so. And he basically goes around and he'll go into a store and he'll go to like the Oriental food aisle, right? Mm-hmm. And he'll start listening to people talk, and he'll gauge their accent, and he'll just go up and he'll just be like, boom, are you this? Are you that? And he'll start speaking in their language. But the point I bring up about that is, like you said, the commonness of that language. Because I had a conversation with him, and I was like, why have you never jumped? He can speak Spanish, but I was like, why do you never do that in your videos or anything? And he said, no one cares that you can speak Spanish because everybody does. Yeah. He said, because Moses he's like a 6'7" tall black guy. So he walks up to these Chinese people, Japanese, Tagalog or Filipino, and start speaking, and they're just like, what the heck is going on? But he said, he'll walk to and speak to somebody in Spanish, and they'll just answer him in Spanish, and it's like, I mean, it's no reaction at all because of how common it is. It's almost, you're almost considered a weirdo if you don't speak Spanish and English. You know what I mean? Like,
Definitely.
so
Yeah, no, I've talked to other people who like study languages, and they're like, "You're an American who loves languages, but you don't speak Spanish," and I'm like, it's not something that's come up for me.
The main reason I'm branching into Spanish is, I mean, there's a couple of reasons, but I don't know. It seems, my thing is, and actually I was going to ask you about this too. What I want to do language learning wise, and the reason I'm picking Spanish is I think it would be the easiest to do since Spanish is so close to English, or close.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of laddering?
Yeah.
That's what I want to do with Spanish. I want to use Spanish to ladder into another language. Have you ever had any experience with laddering or anything?
Well, my problem with languages is I like to dabble a lot. And so I don't get very far in a lot of languages, but I get into a lot of them.
Right.
So I wouldn't say that I've personally had experience with that because I haven't progressed much with it. But I've talked to people who do it and stuff, and I think it's like it's really good. It can be really helpful. Like it's I don't know why I don't do it, honestly.
Right. It's supposed to help you keep the languages separate as well better. And then, of course, just reinforcing what you've learned because you're using it to learn something else.
Yeah. Do you know who Polyglot Progress is?
I actually followed, there was a channel, I don't remember, I just followed like 6 or 7 channels, and I don't remember, I watched a video, it's a guy and a girl. And the girl did a video of like 5 language channels that you should be following or something like that.
Polyglot Progress, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I do follow her because I followed another one that's something around polyglot. I couldn't remember if I subscribed to the channel from that video or if that was the video that I saw. But yeah, but I'm super new to it. That's actually the only video I've seen so far is that one.
They've started doing this thing with Mango languages where they're learning, I know for sure it's Italian, and I think it's also Spanish, and they're learning them at the same time.
Whoa.
Which a lot of people are like, don't learn languages that are too similar at the same time because you'll get them confused. And
right.
That's a problem that I do have. I do get things confused. I had a little bit of trouble when I was doing the Spanish while doing the French. Like once I'm established in something, I can add something else that's similar, but I can't do present tense in both at the same time. Right,
from like a beginner.
Yeah.
Like until you get like a foundation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But they are, and I think they've got 2 videos out now. I haven't seen the second one yet, but in the first one, I forget who it was, but one of them remarked that doing them the way that their brain works is actually they were able to see the differences as opposed to seeing the similarities by doing them together.
Gotcha. Because they speak a bunch of stuff, don't they?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what they speak and how well they speak it, but I know that there's a bunch of them between them.
That's crazy. Yeah, I guess maybe they've just hit that stage where, Moses studies 4 languages at a time.
Yeah.
But I guess once you get so deep down the rabbit hole, man, it's just, you know what I mean? It's like, once you're adding 54 and 55 onto what you speak, you're pretty solid.
Exactly.
I'll have to check more of that channel out. I really liked it. One of the channels that I found off of that, off of Polyglot Progress, was a channel called Passion for Dreaming or something like that.
Yeah.
And she did. I really like these, man. I wish more people would do them. She did a 90-day Polish challenge and only used Duolingo just to kind of see what Duolingo could do, for somebody in 90 days. I really like stuff like that.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, I guess it could kind of hinder you because I am a very firm believer in multiple resources at the same time. But it's also really cool to see how impactful just one source can be. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm 100% for multiple sources. And I only like using things like Duolingo or like grammar books and stuff like that in the very beginning. Once I get to any level of fluency, I'm like, I'm going to go talk to people and I'm going to go try and read this book.
Right.
Because that, for me, is more exciting and fun and helpful.
Agreed.
But doing, like what you said, it's really interesting to see how one tool can be effective. And you get to see where its strengths are and where its weaknesses are. So you need to see where you need to fortify it. But also, like, people are often, like, my friends are like, oh, I'm going to, do this with just Duolingo. And I'm like, no, like, you're not going to get there. And like, I'm a real like naysayer on like, don't do that. That's not going to help you. But that's because I'm me and I'm a huge language nerd and I'm getting my master's in teaching languages basically. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And so like, I'm like, oh, that's not good enough. But for some people it is. And
yeah.
So I shouldn't.
I guess you almost have to weigh out what their, kind of, have you ever seen Fluent ASAP? His name is Gabriel.
I think so.
He did a video and he was talking about that. Like he was like, here's the thing. People want to be conversational in 90 days, but they only want to work 15 minutes a day. That's not going to happen. But for some people, becoming fluent over the course of 2 years by only working 15 minutes a day is fine. So I guess you have to really weigh out how much they want it, I guess you could say.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, does this person want to become a translator or does this person want to go on vacation and be comfortable? Yeah. It's like everyone has a different need and everyone shouldn't be held to the same. And I'm guilty of it myself sometimes. And I just need to like, no, not everyone wants to be like you. And I find myself to be on the lower end of spectrums. Like everyone's like, oh, the dream is to be mistaken for a native. And I'm like, as long as I can play Magic the Gathering in the language, I'm fine.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
Yep, that's always been my thing too, man. Is I just want to be, conversational. I mean, the idea of being mistaken for a native, sure, that sounds interesting. Look, if I can go to another country and make it how people come to America when they say, I need eat. I mean, sure, I'd like to maybe sound a little better than that, but if I get my point across and I can understand, I'm good.
Exactly.
Conversation, man.
Like I said, it all depends on what you're doing. Like if you're just there for a vacation and you're never in the foreseeable future, you're never going to go back again. And that's the only time you're going to learn that language. Like, I don't want to say waste your time on it, but don't waste your time on it.
Yeah.
Like it's because what I really want to work on German right now. Like that's what I really want to do. But at the end of this year, I'm going to be living in either France, Japan, or China. Like I've got other things I need to work on.
Right.
And so, people gotta look at their lives, and German isn't going to be helpful for me. I don't need to work on that. And so if someone's sorry.
Oh, what are you is it moving there for teaching?
Yeah. So my goal is to move to France because that's probably where my fiance is going to be.
What does he do? Just you don't have to say anything, but does he teach or anything like that?
He's currently getting his master's in business.
Okay. Cool.
When we met, he was getting his master's in chemistry, but he hates chemistry. So
fair enough.
He was getting failing grades almost in chemistry, and he was like, I'm miserable, I hate this. He was really good at it and he used to like it, but he was done with it. Gotcha. And now he's getting like perfects on a lot of things in business. So but it's taking him longer to finish now.
Understood. Does he speak multiple things?
Yeah, so he's originally from China. So he speaks Mandarin, and he speaks English, obviously. It's almost impossible to get perfects in France. From what all my French friends have told me, if you get like, they've got a 20-point scale. And so if you get like a 16, that's considered like an A in the US.
Oh.
And he keeps getting 20s,
Wow.
which is, from what my friends have told me, almost impossible. So his English is good, but he refuses to speak it with me. So we always speak French together.
Oh, whoa, that is crazy.
Yeah. And so the extent of all the French I use now is just texting my fiance. I never speak it, and I almost never hear it. So
like when you guys, like if you go out and eat or something like that, you just like speak French between the two of you?
yep. Yeah.
Man, I bet that's surreal for people to see. Like, here's a Chinese dude and a white dude, and they're sitting together speaking French. What is happening?
Yeah, I used to work at a restaurant when he visited about a year ago, and we were at my place of employment eating, and my coworkers were all like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, that's crazy. That's cool, man.
And like they all know that I like study languages, but like to see me actually use, they were just like, "What?"
Yeah.
And it's but when we were in French, his French is a lot better than mine because he's getting a master's in French.
Right.
I was there just getting my bachelor's in French, but like he has to do like extreme reports and stuff, and he was studying chemistry. Like that's hard. So his French is really good. But whenever we were in France together, I'm white and he's Chinese, so everyone would speak to me, and I'd be like, he speaks it better than I do, and I would just, if I didn't feel like, I just like talk to them in English. I'm like, talk to him.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's cool, man. That's funny. I know this is gonna be super weird, but my favorite thing, one of my favorite ways to negate something is the way that the French do it. I love the ne pas around the negated word.
Yeah, it's actually because in like colloquial French, like when you're speaking, you typically drop the ne in the beginning, or like when I'm casually texting my fiance, we drop it. And so I'm currently trying to work on my French because if I end up moving to France, I want my French to be good. So I've been going through the Duolingo just as like a quick review, and I'm also reading Harry Potter in French, and I'm just doing a bunch of little things like that. I'm playing Pokemon Moon in French as well. And so going through the Duolingo, I keep forgetting to put the n in because I never do when I'm texting.
Oh, yeah.
And it keeps telling me I'm wrong. And I'm like, I have a bachelor's in French. Don't you dare tell me I'm wrong.
That's funny. Yeah, I guess they don't teach like colloquial style things. That's funny, man. I've always heard, so you stayed in France for a little bit?
Yeah, I lived there for about 6 months.
I've always heard, and I've never been able to get a straight answer from anybody, but I've always heard the French are really mean about people speaking their language.
Okay, so I've always heard that the rumor is the French are really rude about it, and then the Germans are super accepting about it, right?
Right.
When I was in France, everyone was super... There's one person who was really rude. But I was sick and trying to set up a phone, like a contract, and they don't teach you those vocabulary words when you're getting a French degree. And so I was like, I have no idea what you're saying, and I'm sick, and this like not working out. And like she just walked away from me. Like she's like, I'm done with this conversation, and walked into the back room and never came out.
That's crazy.
But for the most part, everyone was really nice in France. And even in Paris, because like I've had French people tell me that Parisians are rude, and when people go to France, they go to Paris.
Right.
But even the Parisians were super nice to me. But again, my French it's not perfect, but I can definitely speak French. And then when I went to Germany, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about Germans. Oh man.
Wow.
I would say that the stereotypes are backwards in my personal experience.
Right.
But I was also with my roommate who refused to speak like any German. And so once I started breaking away from her and like trying to speak German, people got a little bit more polite.
Right.
But yeah, like the coldness that people describe as French people, I would say I experienced with Germans. And like niceness, the warmness that people talk about Germans having, I experienced with the French. So,
What part of Germany did you go to? I wonder if it has anything to do with maybe just where you went.
we went to like 7 different cities.
Oh wow,
Yeah, so we
that's
were in, I
crazy.
don't even remember where we were. She I let her plan the trip because she was flying over from the US to see me during my spring break. Um and I was like, "You're the one spending the most money here. You pick where we're going." And so she wanted to jam pack in as much as possible.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So
Huh?
we went everywhere.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's it's not the same thing, but I went. See, I'm from Virginia, so I guess it's still technically considered the South.
Yeah.
And everybody in the South is like, people from the North are mean as crap. Like, there's just that thing. Northerners are mean. So I went to New York City. I actually went to New Jersey for a wrestling show. I had no interest in going to New York, but it was 15 minutes away. Like, you could drive down the interstate where we were at and see New York City.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, we're this close. I've got to go. Dude, it was the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Not one person was rude. We got to the train station, and that dude was like, hey, look, let me tell you this. The train is going to be here in 10 minutes. If you're not from here, you don't know what's happening. Let me do this for you. Bought our train tickets, got everything done, told us. Dude, everybody was so nice. And I was just like, wow, this is not what I've been told New York is going to be like.
Yeah. I'm from a small city in Indiana. Like, it's still a city. It's like 50, 60,000 people. But it's a small city.
Mm-hmm.
It just barely breaks the limit of being a city. And, you know, a lot of my friends are from like small towns and stuff. And like I grew up next to like the woods, and there's like farms and everywhere. And like people are like, "Oh, big city people are so rude. Like people out here are the nice people." No. In my experience, people in the cities are so much nicer.
Yeah. I mean, really and truly, man, that's my experience in New York definitely taught me that. I never and the thing I loved about New York was we went on top of the Empire State Building, and I would guarantee within about a 10-minute span, I probably heard it had to be 30 different languages.
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
and I was just like, man, this is crazy. Because you don't get that here. Where I'm from, you either speak English or Spanish,
Hmm.
well, there are some Chinese people around here. And that's actually what's funny about the Japanese restaurants. All the Japanese, a lot of them in America, the Japanese restaurants are actually Chinese. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's apparently it's because Japanese food is really easy to turn a profit on.
well, it's expensive as crap. So,
Yeah. Apparently the ingredients are pretty cheap and it's pretty easy to turn a profit. Because my fiance originally wanted to open a sushi restaurant, and he said that that was why. I mean, he likes sushi a lot too, but he said that
Right.
that's a big reason that it happens.
well, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so, but because that's how it is in my hometown too. I think one of our Japanese restaurants were owned by. That's how it is here in Chicago too, for the most part. From what I've personally seen,
Right.
but I just don't go out a lot.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad thing. Are you like how close are you to because I assume Chicago has like Chinatown and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So is that something that you can, well, don't tell me you're located, anything like that, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, have you ever went down to like Chinatown or anything like that?
Oh.
Just to,
Yeah, I've definitely been to Chinatown a couple of times. I'm pretty far from it. I would say I maybe an hour and a half to get there.
wow.
The area that I live in has a pretty big Korean population, though. There's
Okay.
Korean churches and a bunch of Korean markets and stuff around here. Out in the suburbs, there's a really famous Japanese store that I like to go to called Mitsuwa, and it's like got like a bunch of little stuff in it. It's basically no matter different neighborhoods have different. There's like a Polish area. There's like a Southeast Asian sort of area as well. That's probably my favorite place in the city. They've got really good restaurants and my favorite grocery store ever. So
Nice. Man, it's so foreign to me hearing about places with culture. Like, it's so strange.
Yeah, it's so like you can. I used to live a couple of blocks from the beach, and like, just a couple of blocks from the beach, and I walked there. And on my way to the beach, that's maybe a 10-15 minute walk. I heard like 5 languages, and I was like, "This is amazing." I was doing a vlog when I was doing it. I don't think I ended up ever publishing that because it was really windy and you could barely hear me.
Yeah.
But I remember commenting on the camera. I'm like, this is why if you live in a big city, you should take advantage of your language learner. I just heard literally 5 languages in the last 15 minutes walking to the beach.
Yeah. Have you ever had, like, when you are, so for example, you're walking down and you hear someone speaking, let's say for you, French, like, have you ever just been like, all right, I got to jump into this just because I know I can?
I almost never join people's conversations, but I love eavesdropping.
Because it's so unexpected. They don't think that you know.
Exactly. And I think that it's a super great way to practice your listening skills.
Yeah.
Obviously, if people are listening or talking about something personal, don't eavesdrop. But for the most part, people aren't. Because, like, you got native speakers speaking at a native speed. It's a great way to practice your listening. So, but I have this bad habit of even if I don't speak a language, I try and figure out what they're saying. It's really fun.
Just like, yeah, like you just using context.
Yeah, using context and trying to see like Japanese and Chinese have some. Well, I know some Chinese now, but in the past I didn't. They've got some cognates, and so I'd be like, okay, I think I know what that word means, and then try and just figure it out.
Right.
But
that's cool. So Japanese, yeah, Japanese is awesome. How would you? Because I know that you did it. How would you rate the Duolingo Japanese?
Oh my god. Okay, so the Japanese Duolingo has a lot of problems, in my opinion. Particularly the way that they deal with kanji.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that so much. But Duolingo for Japanese is, I'd give it the same rating as I do for everything else. Good to be a minimum thing that you do for the day. Good for beginners. Don't use it as your only thing.
Right.
Because if you're using it as your only thing, you will not understand what's going on, and you will not learn anything. Well, you'll probably learn something, but you won't get fluent.
Right.
There's nowhere near enough grammar in it. I couldn't begin to read anything with what I learned from that, especially because it doesn't teach you a lot of kanji. The kanji is really problematic in Duolingo.
And I always thought that it would be tough for them to have a decent system to teach, even hiragana or katakana.
Yeah, the hiragana and katakana isn't too bad, but the kanji is just atrocious. Like my least favorite thing it ever does is do you know that in different kanji can have different readings?
Yeah.
So there's a word, it's nichiobi. It means Sunday. And so it has 3 kanji in it. The first kanji and the third kanji are the same thing. So it's pronounced nichi and it's pronounced bi. You know when you click on things and to like put the words into the thing?
Yeah.
And so when you click on that kanji, it's pronounced he, which, as you may have remembered in the word nichiobi, it's pronounced nichi and bi, but not he. He
Right.
is a third reading. I think it's the more common reading. But so when you click on them, it says he yo he, and I'm like, it's nichiobi. It's not that.
Oh.
And they use the same reading all the time, whether or not it's the correct reading. They don't give you all the kanji. So in nichiobi, they don't give you that middle kanji. But if you hover over the clues, it only gives you kanji.
Okay.
So I think they need to work on a lot of that delivery. And if they fixed that, I think it would be a lot better. And then I'd be more willing to tell someone to use it. As of right now, I try to tell people that if they can find something else, to use something else.
So if they don't give you the middle kanji, do they just use the yo symbol?
Yeah, they just use the yo.
That's strange, man.
Yeah, I'm really not a fan of it.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm a fan of learning all the kanji right away. Like when you learn a new word, learn the kanji for it.
Right.
Um, I know a lot of people aren't. Do you know Andy?
Is it a dude that runs a blog?
Yeah,
I've stumbled actually because of your channel. I stumbled across some
yeah. I
of
was
his
gonna say
stuff.
if you don't know Andy yet, and you keep getting into the language stuff, you'll definitely know Andy. He's everywhere. Um, he says that he has trouble learning everything at once, like the pronunciation, the meaning, and the writing of it. But I have trouble putting it together. I think it's more common that people have trouble learning it all at once. But if I learn them separately, I cannot put them together.
Right.
It takes me so much longer to learn that way. So I hate the way that Duolingo is putting things together because it's just like, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that's so strange that they would do that. I wish that some company would do. Have you ever used or heard of Hello Chinese?
Yeah, I actually have it on my
Okay.
my tablet.
I wish somebody would do, because I think Hello Chinese is fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. I think it's a lot better than Duolingo.
Yeah, and I wish somebody would do one of those for Japanese, because all the stuff that Duolingo was like, we don't have the technology to do. I'm like, Hello Chinese is doing it
Yeah.
and doing
Yeah,
it
no.
great.
Hello Chinese, I think, is far superior. I wish that I just I don't use it as much as I should because Duolingo is more convenient.
Right.
And I hate that I do that, but I do. I wish that maybe they could get together, and
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be really good.
but or the just I hate the layout. That's the only thing I don't like about Hello Chinese. Like the way that they do everything is great, but I hate how it looks. And people underestimate how important that is.
No,
Like,
I agree. I agree completely. I don't like. There's a couple things I don't like about it, and and I know people hate this on Duolingo. I don't mind it. I love that if this skill branches into 3 skills, I can kind of choose what I want. I don't like that Hello Chinese is just one lesson into the next, and it's just a set. And I know that at the end of the day, I have to do those 3 before I can drop down. I just like that, and I do like the look of it better. I just like the straight down, nice, clean look of it versus that weird zigzag line that Hello Chinese does. Well, because it's more aesthetic pleasing to scroll up and just see gold, 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 and all that stuff.
yes, I love just seeing all the gold. I'm just like, oh, this feels so good. I feel like I've done something.
Yep.
And there's so much wasted space on Hello Chinese. It's just, I don't know. I think it could be. I don't know. I like things to be, I don't know, organized and straightforward. And,
I know what you mean, man. Like, I really think it's a great program. I just think that, I don't know, it needs work.
yeah, and that's actually one thing that I tell people when they're looking for books too. I tell them that because like, oh, which one's the best? I'm like, the best one is the one you like.
Yep.
It's like, go through it, make sure it has the information you want, and make sure it's aesthetically pleasing. It's laid out in a way that you like and you understand. Because if you don't like your book, you won't use it. And people are like, no, that's silly. You should get the one that's the best. And I'm like, if you don't like it, if it doesn't if it hurts your eyes to look at, the information is there's too much of it, or there's too much white space, you won't use it. You'll feel like you're wasting your time because there's too much white space, or the amount of text will overload you. You need to get something that's aesthetically pleasing to you.
Yep. And like, it's just like going into which language should I learn? Which is the best? Well, that's subjective.
Yeah, exactly.
It's on you. If you don't have a passion for it, look, if Spanish is Esperanto is known as the easiest language in the world to learn. If you have no interest in it, you're not going to learn it.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I've heard that okay, so I'm in a couple of polyglot groups on Facebook. Apparently Esperanto is not the easiest language in the world to learn.
Really?
Yeah, apparently there's other conlangs out there. Apparently Esperanto just had a really good marketing team.
I wonder if people refer to like Tokipona or something.
I don't remember what it was because whenever there's an argument about Esperanto in these groups, I avoid them because people are ridiculous. It's just a language.
Yeah. I've gotten hate on my channel for speaking Esperanto. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't think that everybody should be required. Like, I don't preach it like it's the gospel. It works for me.
Yeah.
So, like...
And that's the thing about Esperanto. There is this community out there that's very, very, like, they want everyone to learn it.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, that's never going to happen.
Never.
Like, it was a noble pursuit, but give it up.
Yeah.
Like, I agree that there should be some sort of language that everyone learns, so everyone's on equal footing, but it's not going to happen because people have too many connections to their language. They want to use their language.
Yep.
And so I think it'd be great if everyone did, but it's not going to happen. Don't be so pushy about it. You can go out there and try and spread it, but don't be so pushy.
Absolutely. There are good Esperantists and there are bad. And that goes with everything.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, I think... I agree. I think Esperanto does good for what it is. It's a niche language that, you know... And honestly, it's not even a language nerd thing. Most people I know that speak Esperanto speak just Esperanto. You know what I mean? And that's weird to me. Because to me, that's like one of those like niche nerdy languages that like, oh, well, I've already learned Spanish, Russian, Italian, French, Japanese, Mandarin, and I really just wanted to test my luck with this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But it's not, and it's super weird.
Yeah, The first person ever introduced me to Esperanto was my brother, who really doesn't do languages at all.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, there's this thing. I kind of want to learn it. And then he never did. This is probably back when we were like teenagers still. He was talking about it. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And then I found it again years later. And I was like, maybe I'll do this. I tried to get him to do it with me, but he wouldn't. Like, it's so easy, though. It's so easy. 120 hours.
I will say, man, the fact that I can conjugate everything I need to and have to memorize less conjugations than simple present tense Spanish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Every tense for Esperanto is less than one tense for Spanish. Yep. It's true, and it's really weird.
Yep.
But...
the only thing I don't like about it, just so people, if people watch this or whatever, I don't sound like an Esperanto purist. 'Cause I do love it, but look, I'll be the first to admit there's issues. I don't like some of the conjugation systems, and the reason is most people aren't going to have perfect pronunciation because, I'm sorry, there's not a perfect pronunciation because it's not real.
Yeah.
And so therefore, when you have an A and an O and a U as end conjugations, as, us, us, you can really confuse what someone's saying if they're not speaking clear. Yeah,
no, definitely. I do wish that they were a little bit more varied because of that. Even listening to the Duolingo sometimes, I'm like, wait, which one was that?
Yeah. Dude, the Duolingo voiceover is weird because it's the only language that uses a real voice, but it's bad sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it's really bad.
Oh my god. It's better than the French, though. Like, the French one is terrible. Like I said, I speak French, and like sometimes like I have no idea what you're saying. Why are you using a robot voice?
Yeah. I don't understand why they don't get real people in there.
I don't know. Like, the first thing I really did on Duolingo was Esperanto. And so when I started doing French on there, just for fun, I was like, why is this worse? This should be a more established thing on here. Yeah. Why is this...
Yeah, because it's French, man. Like, French is super common.
Yeah. I was super confused. Do you know why it's like? Is it just the guy who did Esperanto was more like ambitious than the rest of them, or
I'm not
what?
sure. Well, the main leader of the charge was a dude named Chuck Smith. Mm-hmm. And Chuck does speak multiple things. I think for a while he was living in Berlin and stuff like that, which this has nothing to do. But Chuck doesn't fall into that group where I was like, most people that speak Esperanto just speak that. And I know that Chuck takes it very serious because he wants it to be represented seriously, not like serious like I'm going to hang somebody who doesn't learn it, but you know what I mean. He wants it to be seen as more than just this internet novelty. And so I don't know if it was that serious to him to where he was like, no, I want this to be good. The problem with it is, since it is a real voice, not everything has a voiceover. So you've got some sentences that doesn't have the voiceover.
Yeah. I noticed that once, mostly unrelated. The other day I was doing my Mandarin. I think it happened on live stream too, but it happened when I was reviewing as well. There's a character in the Mandarin thing that it doesn't have voice. And I'm like, why? And I think I noticed it the voice didn't come on for French the other day too. Like, I'm just starting to notice that sometimes it just doesn't happen.
I wonder if maybe it's because they're going back in... Because I don't know if you know this or not. I actually was looking through a message board on Duolingo, and people... Because especially on bigger languages like Spanish, I assume French has this, where you can go to a words tab and it'll tell you how many words that you've learned.
Really?
Yeah, and I know it did it in Spanish, not from the app. You have to be on the desktop because...
Yeah.
But I was looking in there in the group, and somebody was like, oh, I just finished Spanish and I've learned 1,830 some words and it's perfect. Well, then somebody else would comment and be like, I'm only at 1,700 and this many words. And then somebody else would be like, I'm at 2,100. And it's weird. So I'm wondering if it's just people completing it, and as it's been completed, the tree is being updated with new words. And maybe since it's being updated with new words, they haven't went in and recorded those.
That could be. I don't know. All I know is I wish that there was more like transparency on what's going on with Duolingo, because I don't understand. I've tried to look into how things decay because my Japanese is complete, and 1, maybe 3 things will decay a day, and my Mandarin is, I think I'm about halfway done with Mandarin, and I'll get like 10 to 12 things decaying a day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Is it just because I haven't done them as much? But I don't know. It's really frustrating, and I want to know why. I think someone said words decay. And so if this word, you haven't seen this word in a while, it will decay the whole thing. And it's just words. And I'm like, that's funny, because I don't think that Duolingo's good at vocabulary.
I don't either.
I think they should be focusing on whether my grammar skills are bad, not my vocabulary.
If I had to rely just on Duolingo to memorize vocabulary, I would never learn vocabulary.
Never.
I don't think Tiny Cards is good.
I've never used it because I'm just like, I don't trust it. I don't.
I use to memorize the vocabulary from Duolingo. What I do when I'm learning Spanish, I follow a course on, or do a course on Memorize that is Spanish Duolingo words. I memorize the entire course. I'm sorry, I memorize the entire section.
Yeah.
And then I go in, because there is a huge difference in the way that words are used and stuff. So I will learn the word, and every word in that lesson, whether it's 8 lessons or 10 lessons, so whether it's 80 to 100 words, I'll learn all those words. Then I'll go in and complete the lesson to kind of get a better understanding for how to use the words.
Yeah.
Because I think that their system for teaching vocabulary, which I guess is technically just, learn it by using it, but it's trash to me.
Yeah, no, I hate the immersion for learning vocabulary. I'm a person who likes to get my grammar laid out in front of me, and I like to know what the words mean.
Right. Which is why Rosetta Stone can fail sometimes. Yeah.
And so, like, I love knowing. I'm a huge grammar nerd, and so learning through immersion I hate it. I hate it so much. I like immersion for practice, not for learning.
Right. I can understand that.
And I know a lot of people disagree with me, and it doesn't work that way for a lot of people. Everyone's different. But I forgot where I was going with this. But no, I think that what you do is really good. That's probably how I should do it. Because when I find that most of my problems while doing Duolingo are that I don't know the words. And because I'm struggling so much with the words, sometimes I have trouble learning the grammar because I'm like, wait, what does this word mean again?
Right.
And I can focus on the word order because I'm just
Yep.
so focused on learning the word.
And they've changed it a lot too. I don't know when I used to do because I'm just getting back to Spanish. I studied Spanish a long time ago, which is probably why I'm advancing in Spanish, is because it's more so just refreshing me versus. But it used to be when you would hover over the word on the desktop. For example, if you're saying I am eating an apple or I eat an apple, so you would say, como una manzana, right? Como una manzana. Of course, I guess technically it'd be tomo una manzana because they use tomar more than comer, but they don't teach you that really. But so you would hover over it and it would say, como, like for that is the conjugation for I eat. But when you would hover over, it would have the entire chart for present tense. So it would say como, come, comes, comen, comamos, and it would give you the entire chart, and you could click on it, and then you could actually even break it down into present, past, and future to conjugate it. And they completely took that out. And
I've never seen that.
Why would you take features out?
I think they took that out because they want it to be immersion, from what I understand. They want it to be more immersion. They don't want it to be an overload of grammar because people get scared by grammar. And so they want it to seem more user-friendly. They want it to seem like you're not studying, you're just doing this thing.
Right, you're playing a game.
But I don't think it's helpful to get rid of these things. I think that maybe don't make them front and center.
Right.
But make them available, which is what I've said many times. Like, don't make the grammar the focus, but make it available for people like me who want it.
Yeah. Right, absolutely. That's absolutely right. I agree with that. Well, and especially in Spanish with the amount of irregular verbs, if I see tengo dos gatos, right? I have two cats.
Mm-hmm.
It's not tengue, tengues. It changes. Tiene, tienes, tiene. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it changes.
Yeah.
So that would be nice to know versus an immersion, because they don't immerse you in everything. They only teach you a couple of tenses here or there, and you don't use all of them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you're like, and I feel like sometimes in, for example, the one I've got the most experience with is Esperanto. Mm-hmm. And so like, you would do some tenses, and then they were only used in those couple of lessons.
Yeah.
And so like you only see it when you review it, and I'm just like, I don't remember any of this.
Right.
Like, what is happening? And then I got to relearn it every time it comes up again for review. Yeah. But
what I don't understand is I can learn a word such as or I can learn I'm just trying to think of something right off the bat here. It sucks because I know what I'm trying to say in my head, but so you can learn a word like lejos, which is far in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
You'll learn it in that one lesson, and you'll literally never see it, like you said, until you refresh.
Yep.
But there's not a single God-blessed lesson in Duolingo that doesn't have manzana in it. I can say everything on the planet about a freaking apple, and I think they need to, look, at the end of the day, it's free. I applaud them.
Yes.
But some of that stuff needs to be implemented better, man. Like, it should have a laddering effect where stuff that you learn in this lesson should show, not just the apples and the bears that drink beer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it needs to continue over.
I agree. And some of the things that really bother me is sometimes because on the desktop, I prefer to use the desktop because it has grammar explanations.
Right.
Sometimes they'll have explanations of something, and then the lesson will be completely different from what they gave you. And you'll never see the grammar that they gave you anywhere in the entire thing. And I'm like, what is going on? I use this to prepare myself for what I'm thinking I'm going to learn.
Yep.
And it just,
one of your live streams, I was watching one of your live streams where you were reading grammar. I think it may have been the Time one in Mandarin, and I know that you were reading the grammar notes, and you were like, but wait, this is not... What?
Yeah, and I was just like, this isn't whatever keyword it said it was gonna be. I don't
Yeah.
understand.
I'd
But
read on Reddit because I have a big interest in Korean too. And I had read on Reddit, granted, take it with a grain of salt because it's on Reddit. No offense to the Reddit people, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
But I had read that the people that did the Korean course aren't even fluent in Korean. It's literally like Americans who love Korean who are just like, yeah, let's make a Korean course.
I honestly wouldn't doubt that. From some of the things I've seen um, from what I've seen, it looks like the people who did the Japanese are Japanese, at least some of them.
Right.
Um, but the way that someone once called those, when you click on the words and they go up, they called them fridge magnets, and that's stuck with me ever since then. I
Okay.
keep calling them fridge magnets.
Oh, that'll probably stick with me because that's what they are. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
and so some of the Japanese fridge magnets aren't broken up where words break up in Japanese. And one time, literally, there was like a huge long sentence that should have had like 5, 6 words in it, something like that. It was broken up into two magnets. And like one was one word, and then one was all of the particles and all of the words and all the conjugation. And sometimes they break words up in the middle of words, and sometimes they'll have half a word and then two halves of words on one magnet, and then the word after that again. And I'm just like, how did this happen?
Yeah, how did we get here? Like,
Oh,
wow.
if you're
That's
gonna be putting a thing out there, I think that you should have people that are fluent in the language and they know how to program things.
Yeah, and really and truly, especially with Japanese, I mean, Japan is like the technology center of the world. It shouldn't be
Right.
hard to find.
Ugh, I was so confused when I saw it. I'm like, why is this happening? This is because I like to do the speed review to refresh, like I said, one or two things will decay a day. I'll just do the speed review, maybe get both of them at the same time.
Right.
Um, but sometimes I'm like, I can't do this because the words are broken up in weird ways, and I'll just be searching for the word the entire time, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
wow.
Huh. Yeah, that's I don't know if I've ever run into anything like that. Like where it'll be multiple word like it'll at least make sense a little bit like but
Mhm.
I think the problem is that Japanese, especially when you're using the symbols, especially for someone who uses romanization of characters, you need those to be separate to get a grasp on what is separate.
Yeah,
Or at least in my opinion, you do because like if I was doing Spanish and it was, you know, soy de Venezuela, right? I'm from Venezuela. Well, I would
Mhm.
know soy de isn't one word, like but it makes sense because it's romanization of characters.
yeah,
But I've never ran into that with Spanish, but it would still make sense. But for somebody who grew up speaking English, I may see Noroga kuite mas, right? And if it's
yeah.
Noroga ku and then uite mas, that is confusing as crap.
Yeah. It's like I think that things should be broken up where words break up. Maybe you can break off the conjugation, like the inflection of verbs, so you can get that practice in. But it just, I don't understand how it happened. And maybe like you said, it was people who didn't speak the language super fluently, or they just don't program very well.
Yeah.
I feel like they're letting a lot of users make things now, and it's showing. But
Yeah,
that's
I
what
can agree with that. It's like there's no quality control.
none whatsoever, or very little,
Yeah.
and it's
Which
frustrating.
is the complete opposite. Have you ever heard of Babbel?
I've heard of Babbel, but I haven't used it.
I'm using it for Spanish right now, and it's really, really good.
Okay.
Because it's well, it teaches you through several different ways. One of the things I like about it is it'll have conversations,
Uh-huh.
and it's just natural, human spoke, human recorded conversations, but it's natural. And what it'll do is it'll have the entire conversation laid out, and you listen to it, and there will be
Mhm.
blanks for you to fill in for the words that you know up to that point.
Okay.
And then you fill them in and stuff. But then again, it's just people talking like me and you talking right now, and it's more of a natural fill versus, just some of the other ways
Yeah.
that things are done. So I don't know. Babbel's cool, but again, I'm not going to stop using Duolingo. But I also think Duolingo is a little more safe to use for a Spanish versus a Japanese.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool though, man. I don't know if they have it for Japanese or well, of course you know Japanese, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah. I'm gonna check it out eventually. It's just like there's so many things that I want to do right now, and especially because like my channel's it's still not big, but it's getting bigger. And so like people are coming in like, oh, have you done this? Try this out. You should review this. And I'm like, I want to. I need to finish this degree, and I need to work. Like,
yeah,
I'm so busy right now.
yeah, and that stuff really, I mean, it's more important.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, so
Just got about 3 more months, and then I can start enjoying myself more, though.
that's awesome. Heck yeah, and then you'll be in France or Japan or Germany or China. I'm sorry.
So I'll be somewhere. Who knows?
Now, would you teach over there in China? I mean, so that's regardless of where you go, that's what you're going to be doing is teaching, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be teaching English.
Cool. I had a buddy who, or I still currently have a buddy who he taught English in Korea for 2 years, and he's currently in Japan doing it.
That's awesome.
So he digs it a lot. I mean, it's tough, but he lives in Tokyo, and he's from here, so he went from a town with 5,000 people to the most heavily dense populated city in the world, or one of.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah.
I could not live in Tokyo. Chicago is too big for me. I want to move to Nice, which is still a big city, but much smaller.
How many people are in Chicago? It's over 1 million, right?
I think it's 2 million. I think somewhere around there.
Yeah, that's too many people. That's I can't even do the math, but you know how many hundreds of times that is more than me.
Sorry. Yeah, that's a lot more. I want to live in Nice, which if I remember correctly is about 350,000 people. So it's still big. There's still all of the things I want, but there's nature still. I can still see trees.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah,
sorry. Oh, if you go to, so is your fiance going to France no matter what?
He currently lives in Paris.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So
gotcha. Now, have you guys did you all live together for a little bit of time, or is he just come in to see you occasionally?
So when I was studying
also, you
abroad,
totally don't have to answer this. I'm just.
It's fine. Yeah.
Trying to get a feel for that.
When I was studying abroad in France, we lived in not like neighboring buildings, but they were close. Mm-hmm. I think there was like one building between us, and it was like a 5-minute walk tops to get to his place, because we were both on the same campus. And so we lived 5 minutes away from each other for the first 6-ish months we knew each other, and then I had to go back to the States, and then he's come to visit a couple of times. I was hoping to go see him again in March, but that's not going to happen, it looks. But, it's just been long distance for a while.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah, I wondered, how... Because I wondered because I know you said he was Chinese, so it interested me to think, like, it'd be weird for you to go to China and him not even be there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
And so his mom wants him to come home. So he's not 100% sure he's going to be finishing his first master's soon, and there's another program he wants to do. And so he might not finish that. He might go back to China. His visa might not get renewed, so he might have to go back to China.
Right.
And so my plan is to go to France. If that doesn't work out, because it's harder to go to France, I'm going to go to Japan, because that was my original plan before I met him. And then if for some reason he can't stay in France and he has to go back to China, I'll just go to China instead of Japan.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I don't know much about China, but I know Japan is. Like I said, my buddy lives in Tokyo, man, and he freaking loves it. He loves it.
Don't know how.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fun place to visit, but I could not live there.
Yeah, I'll bet it's... Well, I couldn't imagine... My biggest fear would be being cut off from everybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you have an issue, I can't just be like, well, let me call my mom real quick. You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah. I'm not like super close to my family, and most of my friends already live outside of the state or outside of the United States. So I'm used to that already.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that wouldn't be a huge problem for me. It would just be, I don't know what it would be, because I was gonna say it would be being alone, but I would just go play Magic the Gathering and make friends that way.
That's true.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I love the video series that you do. Or the video series that you're talking about doing. I watched the first one. I don't know if you've uploaded any, but the one where you did the not split screen stuff, where it was
yeah.
you talking to yourself essentially 3 different ways or whatever. I thought that was really cool.
Thanks. Did you see the one where I explained what the series was going to be, or did you see the first episode of the series?
I just saw the first episode. I haven't got on. I'll have to check.
Okay.
I'll have to get on there and check.
Yeah. I filmed all of the cutscenes, like all those little skits.
Mm-hmm.
I filmed all of them because my roommate moved out and took her kitchen table with her.
Oh man.
But one of my files is corrupt, which means that I can't use any of the stuff I filmed. So I'm slowly trying to find a good way to redo it, which is why the first episode, I feel it was really bad quality because the lighting was really off because I had to use a different table. And the table I used, I cut so it looked like it was longer than it really was. And
Gotcha.
It wasn't bad, but I could tell. So
no, I mean it's fun. I think it serves the purpose of because trust me, I've done in some of my videos, I've done the opaque masking.
Yeah.
To where it's like I'm talking to myself, and that's not an easy task.
No, it's so hard, but it's really fun, and I think when you do it well, it really pays off. Or even if you do it okay, I think it's really fun. So
no, I agree completely. So, well, I think I'm gonna wrap that here because we've been going for a minute.
Yeah.
Going for an hour and 11 minutes. That's about an average podcast. So,
Yeah.
But definitely, man, I don't know how this podcast is gonna work, but I would like to, if you ever want to be on, man, even if we just do a podcast, just discussing a specific thing, and it's like a 20-minute thing, man. Maybe we can do some more stuff. So, but thanks for jumping on, man. Anybody watching Language Learning Lounge on YouTube, which I will link in the description below, regular content maker and all that stuff. And anything that you have for any of the audience that may be watching before we go?
I don't know. All I'm going to say is go out there and do whatever it is that you want to do and learn whatever way that you want to learn, because the way that you want to do it is the best way for you. Don't listen to anyone else, because it's what's fun and exciting and useful for you is what's going to work for you. And I think that should be, out of everything we've talked about today, I think that's the most important takeaway of everything that we've said. So
100% agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I will come back anytime you want me to, because I've been wanting to do my own podcast, but I don't know what to do. So if you ever want to talk about something and don't have anyone else, I'm here for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.